Morning to everyone. Just want to begin by addressing the event that took place this week, tragic event that took place this week in Abu Dhabi. And I want to say what is obvious to everyone. Thank you. Our way is to fight darkness with light. When you see a situation of darkness and extreme darkness, it's a wake-up call for every one of us to realize that we have the potential of generating light, and we can generate light with tremendous energy, tremendous devotion, tremendous passion. And Hasidus teaches, as we learned in Tanya, that there's a Yisrael ha'er mitoich ha'choshen. Light comes from within the darkness, from the transformation of darkness into light. That's even a stronger light. And each one of us needs to strengthen ourselves and become as obviously everybody's doing what they can, but perhaps we can do more than we can. And it was a very inspiring thing to see that Jared Kushner responded by immediately pledging $1 million to Chabad of Abu Dhabi. His brother imitated him. I said to my students this morning in the yeshiva that each one of you has something much more precious than $1 million to give, and that is yourself. Your devotion, your energy, your commitment to intensify in everything that is an outcome of Avas Hashem, Avas HaTorah, and Avas Yisrael, to express our love to Hashem in even an ever stronger way than until now, and our love for Torah in an ever stronger way than until now, our love for a fellow Jew in every way more than until now, and to intensify our commitment to Torah study, to intensify our commitment to mitzvahs, and to intensify our commitment to spreading light in the world, the light of Torah and the light of mitzvahs. And in this way, we'll bring an end to the darkness, and we will merit the coming of Mashiach, which will bring an end to all negative situations, and will transform all the negative into positive. The world will be filled with the light of Hashem, and the Malach Haaretz Deis Hashem, the world will be filled with knowledge of Hashem like the waters cover the sea. And well, it'll all come together then. Then we'll understand how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together, and it'll be only good for Yidden and for the whole world.
Amen.
This week's Sedra, we come across a very puzzling topic, and that is Esau. We have two tzaddikim, tzaddik and tzidkanis, Yitzchak Avinu, Rivka Imenu, incredibly great tzaddikim, totally devoted to Hashem, Merkava, the level that Tanya uses the expression the Avis and the noise, Merkava L'Shchina, the chariot to the divine presence. Their entire life was devotion and commitment to godliness. How is it possible that Yitzchak and Rivka should have a son like Esau? This doesn't make any sense. So the simple, superficial answer is there's free choice. You can have a father like Yitzchak, and a mother like Rivka, and a grandfather like Abraham Avinu, and a grandmother like Sarah Imenu. And at the end of the day, you have free choice. You choose to make a mess of your life, have the option. You have free choice. However, that answer could only be perhaps satisfactory until you read the Rashi in this week's Seder. In the beginning of the Seder, it says, after it says that Rivka became pregnant, it says, by Yisraetzitzu Habanim B'kirbi, that the two, that she was pregnant with twins, and the two fetuses were by Yisraetzitzu within her. What does by Yisraetzitzu mean? But Rashi gives two interpretations. One interpretation is an expression of Rita. They were passionately pushing. When she passed by a place of Torah study, she felt the baby passionately pushing to go out to go and study Torah. When she passed by a place of idol worship, she felt the baby passionately pushing to go to the place of idol worship. But she couldn't figure out what is going on over here. What kind of a baby am I having? Doesn't know what he wants here. He wants Torah here. It's idol worship. He's completely confused. She was very concerned. So it was explained to her that she's carrying two babies. One is pushing towards Torah study, and one is pushing towards idol worship. And there's always going to be a tension between them, and always going to be a battle between them, until ultimately the elder will become a servitude to the young. Coming of Mashiach, Esau will become a servitude to the young. Another interpretation Rashi gives that Vayisreitzutzu is they were quarreling. Two fetuses were quarreling. What were they quarreling about? The Nachlas Shnei Eilumas. They were quarreling about the inheritance of the two worlds. You know that this world and the world to come. So they were quarreling, they were fighting over the two worlds. So again, it's very hard to understand. So first of all, the first interpretation makes us ask the question. We said that Esau came from good stock, but he had free choice. He had free choice only once he became a conscious, mature adult, once he became bar mitzvah adult. When he was a fetus in his mother's womb, he didn't have free choice. There was obviously an inherent tendency that was within him as he was still an extension of Rivka Imenu. There's a part of Rivka Imenu that pushes to go to Avodah Zarah. Could that be? How is it possible that a part of Rivka Imenu is pushing passionately to go to Avodah Zarah, go to idol worship? After he's born, and after he matures, and after he makes his own decisions. Okay, there's free choice, I understand. But you can see from the fact that even while they were an embryo, they already had those tendencies. So obviously there's something going on in Esau while he's still an extension of Rivka, which is a tendency to idol worship, and together with idol worship for all evil. How is it possible that a part of Yitzchak and Rivka should have a desire and a tendency and a leaning and a passion for idol worship? It just doesn't make any sense. Then the second interpretation of Rashi, that they were quarreling about the inheritance of both worlds, also is hard to understand. If I was there, I would say I could offer you a peace deal in no time. Yaakov Avinu surely wants Elam Haba, right? And Esav wants Elam Hazah. So what's the problem? What are they arguing about? Let's do a deal. Esav will get Elam Hazah, Yaakov will get Elam Haba. Shalom al Yisrael, everybody's happy. They don't have to fight. Why would they be fighting with Nachlas Shnei Eilams? Seems to be this. If they're both tzaddikim, they could be fighting over Elam Haba. They're both Rishon, they could be fighting over Elam Hazah. But one is a tzaddik, one is a Russian. What's the problem? The tzaddik will get Elam Haba, the Russian will get Elam Hazah, and everybody's fine. So one of the explanations, this very, very difficult concept to grasp, is that we know the Rambam says that in its introduction to Parshas Mishnayos, the Rambam explains that Yidden are divided into two categories. There are those that have Chassid HaMe'ula, he calls, very uplifted, pious men. There are people that are their nature is great piety and of striving for spiritual heights, and they spend their lives striving for greater spiritual heights. There's a lot of challenges in that, but that's the kind of person you're dealing with. A person who is seeking spirituality, enjoys spirituality, and leaning in that direction, his tendencies in that direction, and throughout his life he grows to greater heights of spirituality. Then you have the Koybishas Yitzhak. Koybishas Yitzhak is a person who naturally has a big Yetzer Hara, and his tendencies are not necessarily so spiritual and so celestial and so on. And his challenge is to conquer his Yetzer Hara, and to be able to say no to his Yetzer Hara, be able to take himself under control. And every time we learn Tanya, every time you say no to your Yetzer Hara, every time you subdue the Yetzer Hara, this subdues the whole power of Klippa in the world, and has a very, very powerful effect. And the Zohar says that this Tadstalik, Tadskafius of Rachman, when you subdue this, it's Rachman, his Stalik Yikara, the Kuchabicha, the Kula and it causes the glory of Hashem to spread in all the world. The Zohar says that the light that is ignited, that is illuminated, as a result of the act of denying your desires, denying your Yetzer Hara, what it wants, is greater than any other praise to Hashem can generate. A person will give the greatest praises to Hashem. It doesn't compare to the effect of rejecting the suggestions of your Yetzer Hara, denying the Yetzer Hara its wishes, telling me and putting the Yetzer Hara in its place, telling him where to go, telling him to take a long walk on a short pier, telling him to be like a chandelier, hang by day and burn by. Mix out of my life. Don't tell me what to do. I have an Eibishter. I'm committed to the Eibishter. I don't want your suggestions. I'm not going to listen to And every time that a person, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, every time a person pushes away the Yetzer Hara, pushes away the suggestions of temptation, forbidden temptation, even permissible temptation. The fact that I say I'm going to do what Hashem wants me to do, not what the Yetzer Hara wants me to do, that subdues the Yetzer Hara, it subdues the entire power of Klippa in the world, and it causes the glory of Hashem to spread in all the realms. Great thing. Story I've told many times about a Yid who came to Tzemach Tzedek. He said to the Tzemach Tzedek, Rebbe, what should I do? I don't have a desire to study Torah. Sit down with the Gemara, I just can't. I have no interest. What should I do? So the Tzemach Tzedek said to him, wow, that's incredible. You're such a lucky man. You have no desire to study Torah. You know that's what Hashem wants of you, and therefore you do it just for Hashem's sake, against the suggestion of the Yetzer Hara. You deny your Yetzer Hara its wishes to be lazy and to be indifferent, and you push yourself to do exactly what Hashem wants, to study Torah enthusiastically and with drive and with excitement. That's an incredible opportunity. It's an incredible thing. If anybody should be complaining, it's me, said it's what should I do that I always enjoy my Torah? I never have a chance to do it purely for Hashem's sake, because against the wishes of my Yetzer Hara, against my own tendencies, against my own nature, just for Hashem. I never have a chance to do that because I find it very interesting. I find it very inspiring. You who find it difficult to learn Torah and you force yourself to do the opposite of what you are comfortable with for the sake of Hashem, that's the greatest thing in the world. So we have these two types of neshamas. We have the chassid hama'ula. We have the very spiritual person who is striving for greater spiritual heights and achieving them. And it's a very great thing. Big tzaddikim that are fall into that category without a doubt. And then there is the Kavishas Yitzhak, the one who wants to conquer his Yetzer Hara. He's always on a battle against his Yetzer Hara. And he keeps on zetzing the Yetzer Hara over the head, and the Yetzer Hara keeps coming back. Now we know that Maaseh Ava is Simon Mabon. The stories that the Torah tells us about our patriarchs and matriarchs and Avos and Imais, they're a sign for their descendants, for their children and grandchildren. Not only is it a sign, it's an empowerment. The Torah tells us a story that happened to Rabbi, Sarah, Rivka, etc., etc. Torah is not just telling us a story. This is empowering us to be able to do a similar thing. They tread the path. They opened the pipe, and we can follow in their way. We were empowered by the others and the boys to follow in their way. So the question is asked: the person who is a chassid hama'ula, person who is very spiritual, very celestial, strive to only high spiritual achievements. He has the path very well trodden. Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, son of Rivka, they were all very big tzaddikim. They were all very spiritual, very, very lofty, and they were all pushing in the right direction. And he's following right after them. But their energy is he can just go right with the waves that they have produced. But what about the person who's supposed to be a Kavishas Yitzchak? He's supposed to conquer his Yetzer Hara. He's supposed to be fighting his Yetzer Hara. Where is he supposed to get his empowerment from? Avraham Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, Yaakov Avinu, they had such issues. They were tzaddikim. They lived in a holy spiritual realm. They didn't have the fight with the Yetzer Hara. They weren't tempted to do terrible things and they had to fight with themselves. They were holy people. They were Merkava l'Shechina. The same thing is true for Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. They were Merkava l'Shechina. They were a chariot to the divine presence. So if we're supposed to be able to get our empowerment from the patriarchs and the matriarchs, the person that has to deal with fighting with the Yetzer Hara, and of course Yetzer Hara, the difficult Yetzer Hara, powerful Yetzer Hara, that takes strength, it takes great might to be able to fight him. Ezo Giber Akavish Yisrael, the Mishnah says, who is truly mighty, one who conquers his Yetzer Hara. From where is he supposed to get the empowerment to be able to do that? Not Yitzchak, not Yaakov, not Sarah, not Yitzchak, had such issues. And to take the question a step further, that's only he was at the stage where the Yetzer Hara is suggesting that he does the wrong thing. He has to fight back. Tell the Yetzer Hara, no, I'm not going to listen to you. What happens if he already listened to the Yetzer Hara? He's already fallen in the trap. And now it's time for him, he's being called upon to do tshuva. That's what his avodah is now, to do tshuva. So tzaddikim can follow the ways of Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, but the person who's Rahman al-San fallen into the trap, and now he has to do tshuva, he has to be able to realize that the fact that Hashem allowed this to happen in his life is like everything else in the world. Everything Hashem created is only for his glory. And therefore, this is an opportunity for him to be able to take an incredible jump, be able to take a leap, a quantum leap that he could never have been able to achieve had he not have fallen, because you need a strong springboard to reach very high. So because he's fallen into this Aveda, this gives him an opportunity to do tshuva, and through tshuva become even higher than a tzaddik gadol, right? We all know that. But where is he supposed to get the empowerment from if not Avraham and not Yitzchak and not Yaakov and not Sarah and Rivka, Rachel and Leah had that experience? But so all I'm saying is that if you take the text in its superficial state, you could say that whole story only began when Esav became our mitzvah, and he became responsible for his actions. Then he had free choice, and he chose to behave like an Esav. So he had a very, very high neshama. He was a descendant of Abraham and Yitzchak and Sarah and Rivka, and he had everything going for him. But everybody has free choice. So he used his free choice in the wrong way. But once you learn Rashi, you see that in embryo he was already driven that way. So that makes the question much, much stronger. How could a part of Rivka Imenu be driven in embryo to Avodah Zarah? Right, too many questions. Yes. Okay, so let me just repeat saying there's a suggestion over here that she was still the daughter of Basua. Yeah. But that would imply that there was some kind of an imperfection in this. And we know that there was no imperfection in this. She was like a rose between the thorns. So even though she was between the thorns, she was the rose. And because she was the rose, she was of the highest caliber. And being a tzittanus of the highest caliber, we don't expect an Esav to come from her. A Yaakov comes from her, it makes all the sense in the world. An Esav, where is he coming? Sorry. We haven't gotten to that yet. One thing at a time. Yeah? So, in order to provide the answer to this question, HaKadosh Baruch Hu set out that the Yitzchak and Rivka should have two children. And the two children, the way they existed in Yitzchak and Rivka, they represent these two paths in Avodah Hashem. There's two correct, holy, special ways in which a Jew can serve. One is the Chassid HaMu'ud. One is to serve Hashem by striving for greater spiritual heights, through great piety. And that was represented by that. Even in embryo, he was already pushing to learn Torah, because he was drawn to the spirituality that Torah has to have. That was his nature from the very beginning. And he had to develop that nature further. His challenge was to take that to a further degree, to develop that and to lead a life in the physical world, his whole 147 years, to continuously grow in spirituality and every sense of it. And then there was an Esav. What's Esav? Esav was an embryo already. He already had this tendency, this drive, this pull for idol worship. Why was he created in such a way that he should already have a tendency for idol worship? It's part of his DNA. It's because there is a very, very special, important avodah Klal Yisrael is supposed to engage in, which is called Kodesh Yitzchak, to conquer one's Yetzer Hara. So the Eibishter created Esav with a very powerful Yetzer Hara and gave him the task to reach the greatest heights and to generate the greatest light that could possibly be generated through the conquering of the Yetzer Hara. So he was given a strong Yetzer Hara so that he should conquer it, and through conquering the Yetzer Hara, achieve the greatest thing. And in a certain sense, Esav's potential was greater than Yaakov. And that's why Esav was the firstborn. Esav was Yitzchak and Rivka's firstborn because there is an advantage in the Aveda of Parshas Yitzchak. It generates even a greater light. Because when darkness is transformed into light, it created even a greater light than ordinary light. So Yaakov Avinu was only capable of generating regular light. Esav was capable of generating a very powerful light, which comes from the transformation of darkness. In fact, on the pasuk in this week's Seder, by Yigdalu Hana'arim, the lads grew. And the simple meaning is they grew physically. They became tall, became 6 foot tall. The Medrash Tanchuma says that they grew not only physically, they grew also beruchnius, they grew also spiritually. But unfortunately, Esav messed it up, killed Kolamaisa. So his spiritual potential was incredibly great. But he ruined it. The Zohar goes a step further. The Zohar says that initially, by Yigdalu Hana'arim, they both attained greatness, spiritual greatness. Why? Because Avraham Avinu was their truth. Avraham Avinu was guiding them. Avraham Avinu guided each one of them al pi darka, in accordance with his potential. So Avraham Avinu guided Yaakov how to develop his potential of being a chassid ha'ma'ur, and he guided Esav in how to achieve the maximum that he could achieve, which is incredible, through conquering his Yetzer Hara. Problem is, Avraham Avinu passed away, and Esav was left on his own. And now, instead of continuing to follow the instructions that he received from Avraham Avinu, Esav chose to make a mess of it. Instead of developing that incredible potential that the Eibishter had given him, which was Yitzchak wanted to give the brachas to Esav. Yitzchak was no fool. He knew who Esav was, but he wanted to give Esav the brachas because he saw in Esav the most incredible potential. And he hoped that with the brachas and with the energy that he would give him, the spiritual power that he would give him through the brachas, Esav would be able to overcome his challenges and actually develop that energy. Rivka was greater than Yitzchak in prophecy, and she saw that the only way that this potential will be fully developed is if Yaakov gets the brachas, and Yaakov will work with Esav. Until ultimately, when Ab Yavit So'er, Mashiach comes, the job will be complete. But in potential, what was Esav meant to do in this situation? He was meant to develop it in the way that Avraham Avinu guided him, and he could have achieved the greatest heights through successfully battling with his Yetzer Hara. Every battle that one has with the Yetzer Hara achieves the greatest things in the world. You know, we have the story of Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the Red Sea. So we say in Halak, Hayam Ra'ov Hayamitz. The sea saw and it fled. So the Medrash says, what did the sea see that made it flee? Arayne Shel Yosef. It saw the casket of Yosef Hatzad. Yidden were walking in the midbar. Together with what they were carrying in the midbar, they were carrying with them the casket of Yosef. Yosef had instructed them to take his remains with them to Eretz Yisrael. When the Yamsuf saw the casket of Yosef, it said, I'm getting out of here. It backed up. I'm not getting involved. Why? What was the story of the casket of Yosef? It's so special. Because Yosef HaTzadik was a 17-year-old boy, and he was sold into slavery in a foreign country, and he was all alone. Nobody watching him. And he was one person that took an interest in him, and was kind to him, and was nice to him, complimentary. And all it meant was behaving in a way which is contrary to Hashem's will. And the temptation was very strong. And Yosef HaTzadik said, no, the Eibishter said, this is the way I should behave. I'm not going to listen to my Yetzer Hara. I'm going to listen only to the Eibishter. And when the Yamsuf saw the casket of Yosef, and reminded of Yosef's power of controlling his Yetzer Hara, Kriyas Yamsuf took place. It's not a small matter. Controlling one's Yetzer Hara is an incredible thing. So Esav had incredible power. And that was, so Yaakov and Esav, the way they exist in embryo, the way they exist as an extension of Yitzchak and Rivka, represent two paths in Avodas Hashem. A path in Avodas Hashem which focuses on spiritual, and a path in Avodas Hashem which focuses on the transformation of evil to good and creating even a greater light by transforming darkness into light. And that is done firstly by denying the Yetzer Hara its wishes. And chas v'shalom, in a situation where a person has fallen in, so there's an action of tshuva which takes the darkness of sin and transforms it into even a greater light than it could have been had it not have been a sin. As we know, the Baalei Tshuva are greater than tzaddik. Unfortunately, Esav, when he had free choice, didn't develop that potential. So in the theoretical Esav is very inspiring. But the practical Esav is a problem. That's why in Rashi, in the first pasuk of this week's Seder of Eila Toldos Yitzchak, Toldos normally means the generation. The pasuk starts with a story. Yitzchak was 40 years. He married Rivka, he married Yisuel, and didn't have children. Where's the generations? What's going on? So Yaakov says. So Rashi says, Eila Toldos Yitzchak is Yaakov ve'Esav ha'amurim b'Parsha. The Toldos are Yaakov and Esav, who are going to be spoken about eventually in the Parsha. But before we speak about them, we're going to go through the story of how it came to be. Yitzchak married Rivka, didn't have children for 20 years, they prayed, and eventually Rivka became pregnant, and this is the issue, and then Yaakov and Esav were born. So the Toldos Yitzchak that it talks about at the very beginning of the Seder refers to the Yaakov and Esav that you're going to find out further in the Parsha. The Ramban uses a slightly different expression. He says, Yaakov and Esav ha'amurim lemata. Yaakov and Esav, who are spoken about down below, means further down the page. So go look a little further down the page, you'll see this story. So that's the Toldos Yitzchak. What's the difference if you say Yaakov and Esav ha'amurim b'Parsha or Yaakov and Esav ha'amurim lemata? Yes, it's a very big difference. There's two Yaakov and Esavs. There's a Yaakov and Esav as they're part of the Parsha. As they exist in the Torah, every word in the Torah is holy. You know, the word, if this Shabbos in Shul, Chas v'Shalom, is a shaila on the ayin of Esav. Yeah, the Baal Kodesh notices in the ayin of Esav, there's something not right. Missing something, has a little split in the ayin, yeah? And there's a shaila. And the Sefer Torah is, the ayin is possible. One of the sons shouldn't happen. Any Yiddish here. Yeah? So then the whole Sefer Torah is possible, including on Nechi Hashem Elokeinu. So the ayin of Esav, the word Esav is part of the Torah. It's part of the whole Torah. So Esav, as he exists in the Parsha, as he exists in the Torah, as he exists in Rivka Imenu, is very holy, very special. It's a derech in Avodas Hashem. And then there's Yaakov and Esav who are amurim lamata. Then there's Yaakov and Esav where they come down into this world, where they actually conducted their lives in this world. There, Yaakov is a tzaddik, and Esav you wouldn't want to meet in the dark alley. Even though the way he's in the Parsha, he's Kodesh Kadashim. He's the B'chayr of Yitzchak and Rivka. Because it's taka higher of it, if you do it right. In the Esav, the way the Torah presents him, the way the Parsha presents him, the way he exists in Rivka, we're not only supposed to see godless in that, we're supposed to emulate. We're supposed to be able to take teiches from that concept of Esav to deal with the Esav within ourselves. Each one of us has a Yaakov and an Esav within ourselves. We have a Yitzchak and a Yitzchak, and Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Habamis. And the Nefesh Habamis wasn't put there to make our lives difficult. Nefesh Habamis was put there to lift us up to the greatest heights. Just like Esav received his challenges to lift him up to the greatest heights, but he messed it up. We have to learn from him on not to mess it up and to take advantage of the opportunities that God gives us, to lift ourselves up and to lift the world around us to a greater height. So Esav exists as a concept, and it's a koyach to every year to be able to deal with the challenges that he faces. Yaakov exists as a concept to inspire every year to develop his appreciation for spirituality and for godliness to the furthest extreme, like Yaakov. Both are drachim and avodas Hashem. The fact that in Lamato it didn't work out that way is another issue. We have to deal with that as well. In Parshas Vayishlach, Yaakov Avinu has to deal with Esav coming against him with 400 men. He's got to deal with it. That wasn't the Esav in this. Are we making sense? Yes. It's okay. It's a complicated sugya. I don't want to learn the whole Torah on one foot. But the way it's explained is Yitzchak saw tremendous potential in this. And he believed that if he gives him the brachas, that will help Esav develop. Rivka understood even deeper. She understood it. The way to develop the potential of those positive energies which are in Esav can only happen through Yaakov receiving the brachas, and Yaakov using the energies that he's given by those brachas to engage in the world of Esav, and to transform Esau in that way. But the initial idea of Yitzchak was to unleash the potential of Esau, to give him the power to be able to deal with it. I'm just pointing out that there is a lamata and there's two Yaakov and Esau. There's Yaakov and Esau as the way they exist as a concept in Torah, and then the way they exist in the physical world. That's lamata. Yeah. So it's two expressions that point out. Now, how does this? So this helps us understand why even in embryo, Esau was pushing. Esau as a part of Rivka was pushing towards Avodah Zarah, because this wasn't pushing towards Avodah Zarah. This was pushing towards the Avodah of Kevish Yitzchak. This was pushing towards the way of serving Hashem by conquering was the Yetzer Hara. The Esau had everything it takes to be in a perfect position to deal with, to engage in this Avodah. That's the answer to that question. Now, what about this? The second interpretation of Rashi is that they were battling about the two worlds. We asked the question, what was the battle of the two worlds? Worked it out very simple. So the answer is like this: that Yaakov and Esau represent these two paths in Avodas Hashem, especially the way they were in Rivka's womb. They were both Kodesh Kodashim. So there were two paths in Avodas Hashem. One is the Chassid HaMa'ula, and one is the Kodesh Yitzchak, as we explained. Yeah. So the Chassid HaMa'ula, the one who's seeking great spiritual heights, he appreciates Elam Haba. He appreciates a world of spirituality. That's what he's focused on. Spirituality, Elam Haba. The Kodesh Yitzchak, on the other, the one whose task it is to face the challenges of this world and tackle them, and take every challenge and cherish it, and say, wow, this is an opportunity. I'm going to give him a zetz, and this is going to transform darkness into light. This is going to really make it happen. So what does he appreciate? He appreciates Elam Hazah. He appreciates the challenges of this world. That's where the action is. That's where it's all about, right? However, therefore, Yaakov should want Elam Haba, and Esau should want Elam Hazah. Even the Esau Hamur Parshas should want Elam Hazah. Hazah is where there's opportunities to continuously take on the challenges, and by correctly taking them on, creating and generating the greatest light that could possibly be everything. However, Yaakov also has a little bit of Elam Hazah. At the end of the day, he's living in the physical world. He also has to engage with the physical world and deal with challenges in the physical world. But every challenge that he comes across in the physical world, he only sees it as a springboard to be able to reach even a greater height in spirituality. So for him, Elam Hazah is only secondary. It's only an accessory to Elam Haba. He's interested in Elam Haba, and he sees Elam Hazah only as an accessory to Elam Haba. Esau, on the other hand, although his main avodah is dealing with the challenges with the Yetzer Hara, with the problems of Elam Hazah, nevertheless, surely Esau also has his good high moments. Sometimes one davens and feels inspired. Sometimes one attends a good shiur and is elevated. And there's always going to be moments of spiritual inspiration. So how does Esau interpret those moments of spiritual inspiration? It says, in order to have the strength, the ethical strength, the spiritual strength, to be able to cope with the challenges that I'm facing, I need once in a while a lift. Yes, once in a while I need to get inspired to be able to have the koyach to do that. So he sees Elam Haba, the inspiration, the spiritual experience, only as a means to be able to have a better Elam Hazah, be able to do the avodah of conquering the Yetzer Hara and facing the challenges of this world more successfully. So the Elam Haba, the little bit of Elam Haba that he has, he sees as an accessory to the main thing, which is Elam Hazah. So here's the battle between Esau and Yaakov. Yaakov says the main thing is Elam Haba. Elam Hazah is only here as an accessory to Elam Haba. Esau says the main thing is Elam Hazah, and Elam Haba is only here as an accessory to Elam Hazah. So they had a major disagreement in perspective. So there was a major battle going on within Rivka's womb. There were these two embryos that had two different perspectives on the reality of life. Yaakov, they both understood that Elam Hazah and Elam Haba are both components that are going to be necessary to use in Avodas Hashem. But Yaakov saw the main thing as Elam Haba, and Elam Hazah is only accessory. Esav saw Elam Haza is the focus, and Elam Haba is only an accessory to Elam Haza. And both are right. Two different perspectives on how you serve Hashem. And every neshama has to develop its potential according to the way it was set out. Chosid HaMe'ula with an eye. Yeah. In sum total, every one of us has both. Every one of us has a Yaakov and an Esav. There's a part of us that has to engage in reaching spiritual height. And there's a part of us that has to engage in dealing with the challenges of this world, including the challenges of the Yetzer Hara, and transforming the darkness that we encounter in this world into light. And we take inspiration from the Yaakov, the Esav, Ha'amurim, the Parsha, from the Yaakov and the Esav as they appear at this week's Parsha, to be able to be empowered to tackle both of them. So we shouldn't shy away from the challenges of this world. Shouldn't say, I'm going to just do Yaakov. I want nothing to do with the world. I'm not going to reach out to other people because I don't know if I can cope with the challenges. You have the power. The others and the Imais empowered you to be able to deal with both. They provided you with an Yaakov and an Esav, and both there, empowering every one of us to do everything we need to do to serve Hashem properly and to transform the darkness of the world to light and to bring Mashiach. But that's true, but we also every person has to figure out when they should be engaging in this and when they should be engaging in that. And when Hashgacha Pratis, when divine presence, when divine providence takes you in a certain direction, that's a sign that you have the ability to deal with it, and you shouldn't shy away from it. You should take the strength that is provided to you by the Torah and by the Avos and the Imais, and take on the challenge and be successful. Okay, so a very good question. The question was sometimes it's not very clear. Sometimes it's not very clear whether you should be engaging in this Aveda or in that Aveda. And all I can say is the solution to this problem is the Mishnah says, "Asay l'chara." You should have a mentor, have a guide. What's the benefit of having a mentor? Not necessarily that person is cleverer than you, but that person doesn't have the ulterior motives and the natural preferences that you have. So when a person is faced with a question, should I go this way or should I go that way? If they can consult someone that they respect, someone that they can take guidance from, who is not trapped in the situation that they are trapped in, they can see it from outside without being affected by the different things that are pulling them. Look at it with clarity, saying, I want to do what the Torah wants from me. Could you help me figure out in this situation, what does the Torah want? That's the idea of Asay L'chara. And then often when there's confusion, that helps straighten it. Okay, we're going to move on to Tanya. I believe we're still at the very end of the title page, the Shar block. We're talking about the Derech HaRucha U'Ktsara, the long and the short way. And it's one more page, I think. Try one more page. Try one more. One more. No. You're running wrong way. Keep turning that way. Keep turning. We've gone too far. That's the way. Thank you. Okay, so it's the page just before page 2. So we were talking about that it's not enough just to do the right thing. We also have to work on being the right thing. Right? That's the difference between a Beinoni does all the right things, but he isn't necessarily the right thing. He's not passionate the right, or sometimes he has the wrong passion. And we have to work on ourselves. It's extremely accessible to every single Jew. To serve Hashem with our mouth, with our heart, and with our action. And to serve Hashem with your heart means to push your heart in the right direction. You should be excited about, passionate about things, and not be excited, and not be passionate about the wrong thing. And then we were faced with the question, but how do we actually get there? How do we make ourselves excited and passionate about the right thing and not about the wrong thing? So we spoke about the power that the mind has. And when one understands the greatness of Hashem and the greatness of Torah and the greatness of mitzvahs, the greatness of the Neshama, the deeper one understands, and the more one contemplates on it and focuses on it, it affects our emotions, it affects our priorities, it affects our what we are excited about. So we're not guaranteed perfection in this matter, but we can definitely make inroads, we can definitely move ourselves. And the Torah tells us that it's within our reach to make a dent, to change ourselves internally. The pasuk says, you'd exterminate evil from within yourself, not just from your actions and from your speech and from your thoughts. Also from within yourself, you can exterminate evil and replace it with good. So each and every one of us should and can achieve certain successes in the area of making ourselves more what we're meant to be and less what we're not meant. Not only can we direct ourselves and take control of ourselves when it comes to doing the right thing, saying the right thing, and thinking the right thing, but we can also have an impact on our inner self. And that is what Chassidus has to offer. Chassidus has to offer a perspective which will help us lift ourselves up, change us, transform us, bring us closer to Hashem, not only in our actions, in our speech, in our thoughts, but also in our feelings, also in our priorities, also in our passions and our desires, our value system. Our priorities should somewhat be shifted. And we said that the way that we approach that, the way that the Tanya is going to teach is called the Derech Arucha Uktsara. It's the long and short way. But there is a short way. They just focus on getting it right, doing the right thing. Don't bother about what you feel like. You get there quickly. But you're not really making any true change in yourself. You continue to be the same lowly entity that you were before. Your desires, which measure who you really are the same. You want to really change yourself and elevate yourself, you're going to have to use a long path, which is the path of understanding the greatness of Hashem, understanding the greatness of Torah, understanding the greatness of the Neshama, contemplating on your understanding and allow it to filter in and actually make a dent, make an impact in who you are, not just what you're doing. Therefore, this is called the Derech Harucha Uktsar. Now, within the Derech, so the way we explained it until now, is the approach of Chassidus and the approach that there was prior to Chassidus or without Chassidus, where the focus was only on doing it right, and if there is an interest or a desire or a temptation to something wrong, say that's disgusting, that's bad, they get away from here. But at the end of the day, you still have that desire. You're not changing it. The way to change it, I remember I gave the mashal of the thief that's trying to break into your house, and you have two options, either to chase him away or to bring him in and have a cup of tea with him and talk with him and counsel him how he can actually become an honest person, he can transform himself and become an honorable member of society. And if you're going to be successful, then you haven't just put a plaster on the problem. Then you've actually changed the problem for real. So each and every one of us has a Yetzer Hara who's that thief. And the question is, are we just going to shout at the Yetzer Hara and knock him over the head and tell him to go fly a kite? Or also going to spend time explaining to him, what do you want? You want what's good. You want what's good. You want what's enjoyable. Let's together reach the understanding that taste and you will see that what's really good is a relationship with Hashem. What's really good is a life of Torah and mitzvahs, because Torah is Torah's time. It's a Torah of life. It teaches us how to really live, how to live a meaningful life, how to live a purposeful life, how to live a life which is truly worthy of being called life. And little by little, the more you explain that to your nefesh habamis, it makes it then. Which is v'havtos Hashem l'kecha b'chol levavcha b'shnei yitzarecha, that you should bring the other side of the equation, the nefesh habamis that wants good, wants it to be good, wants it to be enjoyable. To explain to it that true good and true joy is dafkin Torah, dafkin avodas. Now, You could take this a step further. That is that even in the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, or the derech of the Baal Shem Tov, the approach of the Baal Shem Tov, there's also two ways to go about it. There were disciples of the Baal Shem Tov and Rabbi who followed the approach of what was called the Shlomo Karliner, associated with the pasuk, Tzaddik b'emunasa yichya. A tzaddik lives through his faith. And he said, don't read the word yichya, but read the word yechaya. Chaya means he gives life, he animates through his faith. Said that what the ordinary person has to do is just attach himself to the tzaddik. Have faith in the tzaddik, connect with the tzaddik, be devoted to the tzaddik, obey the tzaddik. And the tzaddik is a very lofty neshama. So he is obviously at a very high spiritual. And through your connecting yourself to the tzaddik will lift you up and make you a more spiritual person, make you love the right things, fear the right things, give you a higher experience. The Alter Rebbe did not buy into it. So that's not enough. Every individual has to do it by himself. Every individual has to learn about the greatness of Hashem. Every individual has to understand the greatness of Hashem, understand the greatness of the Torah, understand the greatness of a mitzvah, understand the greatness of the neshama, and by himself come that he should love Hashem. Not just he should be flying on the wings of the tzaddik, but he should love Hashem and he should fear Hashem and he should become closer to Hashem internally and emotionally on his own steam. Obviously, in order for it to work, you need siyata d'shmaya. You need the assistance from Hashem. And that will surely be enhanced and strengthened by connecting yourself to a tzaddik. And that's very, very important. But that's not going to do it for you. You have to do it, you have to sweat it out yourself. Every person has an obligation to sweat it out themselves, to learn about the greatness of Hashem, to contemplate on the greatness of Hashem, and to allow that to impact their set of priorities. There's a story told that there was a chassid of the Alter Rebbe who had a friend who was a chassid of another one of the disciples of the Maggid, called Rabbi Amdurer. Big tzaddik. This Rabbi Amdurer followed the path of tzaddik b'manasa yichya, tikva yichya. So each chassid traveled to his Rebbe and was guided by his Rebbe in accordance with the approach of his Rebbe. So the Alter Rebbe's chassid would go to the Alter Rebbe regularly. The Alter Rebbe would guide him what he should be studying, what he should be contemplating on, how he should be davening, how he should be serving Hashem. And in this way, he should little by little let it filter into him and let it transform him internally. The other chassid traveled to Rabbi Amdurer. Rabbi Amdurer guided him according to his approach. And the main focus was on connecting himself to the tzaddik, believing in the tzaddik, and the tzaddik will carry him. So the chassid of the Alter Rebbe was working very hard. The Alter Rebbe didn't give him an easy ride. He demanded of him, and demanded of him, and demanded of him. One day, the chassid came to the Alter Rebbe, and he said, it's not fair. He said, I'm trying so hard. I'm doing everything you're telling me to do. And I don't feel that I'm actually becoming transformed. I don't feel that I'm actually working. Of course, it might be working a little bit, but it's not taking me to where I want to be. My friend, who was a chassid of Rabbi, he's flying high. He's full of passion. So am I on the right track? I mean, what's going on with me? So the Alter Rebbe said to him, your friend is not, he said on his friend, he's burning with a passion for God. So the Alter Rebbe said, your friend is not burning with a passion for God. Chaykel is burning within him. In other words, yes, it's true. It works. The approach of tzaddik b'manasa yichya, tikva yichya l'yichaya can work. But there's something artificial about it. There's something superficial about it. It's not the real you. You're flying on somebody else's coattails. When you desire a lamb chops, a good steak, or a sushi, or a falafel, it's not somebody else's desire that happens to be traveling through you. It's you. That's what's important to you. We need to bring ourselves to the point where godliness, where Torah and mitzvahs, where Abbas Yisrael is what's important to me, not just to somebody else that I'm connected to. It should become my priority. It should become what I'm passionate about. And the only way to make that happen is derech arucha. It's a long path, but it's ksara, it's short, because the effect that it has is real. It actually makes you desire this. It actually makes you have the right priorities. It actually makes you have the right preferences, the right ideas, and the right value. While there's also a shortcut that a ksara of arucha. You just jump on the wings of the tzaddik and fly with him. But then it's arucha, it's long because it's not real. It's not the real you. It's not the authentic you. If there's a certain superficiality and artificiality about it, the fact that it's somebody else burning in you. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe recommends this Siddur, writes that this Sefer, Tanya, is specifically the Derech Arucha Uktsara, even within the teachings of Baal Shem Tov itself, it's the path which is long and short. And he says, Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach. Obviously, all this can only work with the help of Hashem. It's a big job. You have to put a lot of effort into it, but it's only going to work with Hashem's help. So that is the section of the title page is written by the Alter Rebbe himself, and I hope that over the few shiurim that we had focusing on this, there became some clarity on what the Alter Rebbe is teaching us in the title page, and this I think also gives us a good introduction to what we should expect to try and take out of the journey through time. We're going to turn now 2 pages to page 4. There's 4 on top of the page. I don't know what the corresponding number in the English is. 14, 15 in the Roman numerals. Okay? So I'm going to give a little introduction to this. I don't think we're actually going to get to the text today, but let's start with the introduction. The Alter Rebbe initially wanted to write the Tanya as notebooks of manuscripts. He didn't want to publish it. Baal Shem Tov didn't publish anything. Rabbi didn't publish anything. We're talking here about the most esoteric aspects of Torah, teachings of Chassidus, which is the crown jewel of the essential jewel of the king's crown. We treat it with special respect. The Alter Rebbe was not originally intending to publish it, but he wanted to guide his Chassid. So he wrote notebooks, and he passed them around to the Chassidim that they should copy them over and share them with one another. And in this way, many, many editions of the Tanya became available in manuscript form to anybody who wanted to study it and be guided by it. Problem is that when things are copied over from one another, so naturally, you play telephone, so naturally, mistakes crept in. So some of the notebooks that were being passed around did not have the right words. There were mistakes. To add insult to injury, there was also a conspiracy where some of the opponents of the Alter Rebbe took advantage of this vulnerability, and they copied over the notebooks and intentionally inserted controversial mistakes to discredit the authenticity of the text. So they could show people, look what it says over here. This is not acceptable. So they took advantage of the vulnerability of the fact that it wasn't a printed sefer. It was only written in manuscript form. And therefore, you could, in the guise of copying it over, you could try and discredit. Now this came there were a group of Hasidim, respectable Hasidim of the Alter Rebbe, who were also merchants. And they traveled to Leipzig. Leipzig is in Germany, for a fair where they used to bring back goods and sell them at wholesalers, and they go back to Russia. And from this, they have their parnasa. So when they came to Leipzig, they found that at the fair in Leipzig, there was a stand where somebody was selling the Kuntresim. Kuntresim is the notebooks, the written notebooks of the Tanya. They were very impressed that the Tanya was so popular that it was being sold at a fair in Germany. Russia to Germany. There were no faxes and no emails. So showed that it really. So they bought a copy and they took it to their hotel room where they read it. And they were well versed in the authentic version of the copy. They saw that this is one of those controversial additions, which was where it was specifically mistakes were put in to try and discredit the Tanya. So they went back to the fair and they bought off all the copies. So nobody else didn't fall into the wrong hands. And they brought it back with them to the Alter Rebbe. And they went into the Alter Rebbe and they explained to the Alter Rebbe that this can't continue. Something needs to be done that's going to clarify what exactly is the correct version of the Tanya. And then anything else is counterfeit. The only way to do so is to publish, print. So the Alter Rebbe agreed against his initial hesitation. He agreed to the publishing of the Tanya, but on two conditions. One condition is it should be anonymous. It shouldn't say the name of the author. The other condition is that it should have approbations, haskamas, from two great tzaddikim, two Talmidim of the Mag, Reb Zusha of Anapol, and Reb Yehuda Leib HaKohen. They should write approbations to the Tanya. Now, actually, these two conditions are a little bit interrelated, because if you publish a book without writing who the author is, especially if it's a book that deals with delicate issues in the service of Hashem, so the question is, who is this guy, and who says that he can be relied on to guide me in such delicate matters? So therefore, it needed, in order to be published incognito, in order to be published without an author, it needed to have two known tzaddikim who will write that they have read it and they know the author personally, and they are recommending it that it's trustworthy, and it's actually a wonderful project. It's something that everybody should read. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe sent three Chassidim, the manuscripts of the Tanya, the correct manuscripts of the Tanya. He sent them to Anapoli to visit these two tzaddikim who both lived in Anapoli at the time, Reb Zusha of Anapoli and Reb Yehuda, and to ask them to write haskamas for the Tanya. So on this page that we have in front of us, you have two columns. The right column is the haskama from Reb Zusha of Anapoli, and the left column is the haskama of Reb Yehuda. Very interesting what they wrote, and the differences between what each one wrote and what is written in a clear way and what is hinted in what they wrote. And we can really enjoy and get inspired by reading these two haskamas of these two tzaddikim, Rabbi Leib and Reb Zusha of Anapol. It happens to be that the Maggid of Mizrich passed away in Anapol. The story for itself. But Maggid of Mizrich passed away in Anapol. He's buried in Anapol. I visited him, see him in Anapol. And alongside him, to the right and to the left of the Maggid of Mizrich's oil of his kever, are the two tzaddikim, Rabbi Leib HaKohen and Reb Zusha of Anapol. These are the two tzaddikim that are buried alongside the Maggid. The Maggid passed away before the Tanya. Tanya was written by the Alter Rebbe, who was a disciple of him. Yeah, and he sent it for approbations to two of his colleagues, elder disciples of the Maggid. And it happens to be from all the Talmidim of the Maggid, the two that are buried right next to the Maggid are these two tzaddikim who wrote haskamas on the top. Anyway, in Yisrael Hashem, yes. Rabbi Yehuda Leib HaKohen is one of the disciples of the Maggid, one of the elder disciples of the Maggid, a colleague of the Alter Rebbe, an elder colleague of the Alter Rebbe, as is Reb Zusha of Anapol. They're both tzaddikim, disciples of the Maggid, who lived in Anapol, and the Alter Rebbe had sent three of his chassidim with manuscripts of the Tanya to them to ask them to write an approbation for the publishing, the forthcoming publishing of the Tanya, and they will testify. Anybody who opens the Sefer should know that they're in good hands when they read the Sefer, because it's written by somebody trustworthy who's going to guide them in how to serve Hashem properly according to the teachings of Hashem. Sorry? So later, after the Alter Rebbe's passing, it was published with his name. But during the Alter Rebbe's lifetime, or definitely initially, it was published without it. So today we have some svarim from the Baal Shem Tov, but it's mainly taken from his teachings, which were given over orally and written down by the Talmud. I think it has to do with the fact that you're dealing here with something very, very holy, very special. And it has to be treated with special respect. And that there's a whole story with the Maggid was teaching Parshas, and there were notes of his teachings. And Pinchas Karitzer, also a disciple of Hashem, came and found he was a little critical of the way that the Maggid was teaching Parshas so openly, not without discretion of who he was teaching it to. And he found a page of Parshas in an unclean place. He was very upset about it. The openness of teaching without discretion is leading to the desecration of something so holy. And his tapeda was very powerful. And Alter Rebbe, who was a young student at the time of the Maggid, felt that was a great danger to the life of the Maggid. He went over to the Pinchas Karitzer and he said to him, with great respect, may I share a story? So the Karitzer said, fine. Told me the story. There was a king and a crown prince, nothing dearly. Then one day the crown prince became very ill. And he tried to cure him, doctors tried to cure him, others cure him. He was getting worse and worse and worse. And finally the doctor showed up. He said, I have a cure. A certain potion, which this potion can cure the prince of his ill. The only problem is that in order to make this potion, you need a certain precious stone. You have to grind it, turn it into powder, mix it with water. That's the potion. Where do you get this precious stone? There's only one place in the world. It's the centerpiece of the king's crown. If the king is okay, opening up his crown, moving the center, moving that truth, crushing it, turning it into powder, mixing it with water. And at this point, the condition of the prince was so deteriorated that he couldn't even drink anymore. He would have to pour it over his mouth. Some of it would go to the side, and maybe one drop would go in, and that will save it. So the king said, what do I need the crown for? Not for the crown prince. So take the crown, do whatever has to be done, just anything can be done to save the life. So Pinchas Karitzer said Alter Rebbe said to Pinchas Karitzer, said, the crown, the king is Hashem. Prince is the Jewish people. Jewish people, Toldos and the darkness of Toldos are going through very hard times. Very hard to stick it out. And here is Parshas, which is the center jewel of the king's crown. And even if it needs to be ground and mixed with water and poured over the mouth of the prince, some of it will go to the side. Could be some of it will land in one place. A little bit will go in, save the prince, and give him that energy and that strength that he needs to be able to make that commitment and energetically and enthusiastically serve Hashem properly and bring an end to the goals of the Shiur. It's well worth it. And that calmed down the Pinchas Karitzer and saved the life of the Maggid, and everything went forward. So I'm just sharing this story to give us a perspective that it's not taken lightly. Toldos HaTorah, which for years and years, generations and generations, they're not shared, they're not revealed. Very select individuals had access. And here, with the revelation of the Baal Shem Tov, these secrets were so it was done with care, it was done with respect. And in each generation, what had to be done was done. That okay, same. But the benefit that we have today is that we have a printed book, and we say this is the authentic version. Okay. Yeah, it's true. You're right. Okay, we're going to hold it here. Wish everyone Hatzlacha Rabba. Freilich and Chaydish Kislev is coming up this Shabbos. Chaydish Kislev is a Chaydish HaGeula. Chaydish Kislev we celebrate. Rebbe was recovered from his heart attack. Throughout the month of Kislev, we have Yom Tovim, the Mittler Rebbe's Geula, the Alter Rebbe's Geula. Hanukkah is coming up. We should see the light, true light of the Geula Amitis Vashlema Yidei Mashiach Tzidkenu, the Karev Mamash.
Amen. Thank you.